Hello everybody, welcome to Football Focus with Ben and Dan.
I'm Ben.
I'm Dan. This is our first ever take, so let us tell you guys what we are all about.
We are a talk show that is going to talk about all 32 teams and their players. Going to talk about college, and we're going to talk a lot of fantasy football this season.
Oh yeah, we are. We're going to bring you breaking news, stats, information about players, rankings, predictions, top 10 lists, and general how-to football.
Hey, we want to interact with you, the fans, so we have Twitter, email, and one day we hope to have live call-ins on this show.
Yeah, we do. Like us, subscribe to us, tell your friends about us. The more followers and the more subscribers we get, the more likely we are to reward you for it. We want to do giveaways of things like these, straight to you of your choice, if we can get that kind of following. So definitely make sure to click that like button and that subscribe button below. Email us, tweet us. We'll get you those handles there below in the comment section. Well, let's get right to it, Ben. We're going to start today with some fantasy. Sadly, the NFL's in its dead period, but it never truly is for us. We're going to hit you with top 5 wide receiver and running back sleepers. Ben, take it away.
Well, my first running back sleeper is Toby Gerhart with the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, he spent the first 4 years of his career with the Minnesota Vikings as a backup to the great Adrian Peterson, never really getting a chance to do much. But you know what? The guy's averaged over 4 yards a carry in his career. He's going to be a solid guy now that he's been named the bell cow, so to speak, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Going to be grabbing him around the 4th and 5th round.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely in that RB2 category. You got to remember, Gus Bradley's going to model that offense after what they did with Marshawn Lynch up in Seattle. And you can't forget, before Gerhart came to the league, he had a killer, nearly Heisman-worthy season. Stanford, excuse me, guys.
Number 2, my boy, Lamar Miller from the Miami Dolphins. He's a guy that has averaged over 4 yards a carry in his career. He's looked bad, but the Dolphins with Mike Sherman haven't really given him a chance to do anything with this new offense. Bill Lazor, he's going to have a chance to be a part of the passing game. He's bulked up. He's looked better all training camp. And with no Sean Marino looking like garbage in the offseason with his, being overweight, out of shape, and also arthroscopic knee surgery, look for Lamar Miller to be a solid fantasy option this year, possibly a flex, late RB2.
Oh yeah. And you can't forget what happened with the Dolphins line last year. That did not help Miller out one bit, and he still was able to average over 4 yards a click.
My third running back in this one is going to be Andre Ellington at Arizona Cardinals. This guy's the guy that, with no Rashard Mendenhall there to poach the goal line touches, he's going to get a lot more carries. I know they've got Jonathan Dwyer who might kind of fill that Mendenhall role, but Ellington is going to be the number 1 guy. He's going to be that playmaker out of the backfield. They're going to use him in the screen game, maybe line him up in some different ways, find a way to get the ball in his hands because he is a difference maker on the field.
Oh yeah. And the Arizona Cardinals are my guys. Loved him as long as I've loved the NFL. And I got to watch a lot of Andre last year. He's a jitterbug. I will be sneaking up early on him in fantasy this year. Definitely in the RB2 category, for sure in the flex hole. All right, we'll switch over to wide receivers for a little bit. Number 1, Michael Floyd, another one of my boys. Don't want to sound too biased too early, but look at Floyd's stats last year. He actually led the Arizona Cardinals in receiving, which is a surprise since Fitz has been such a great holdover for so many years. But Floyd is ready to take up that Anquan Bolden-esque number 2 role we had back when Kurt Warner was around. I expect him to easily hit the 1,000-yard mark again and up his touchdown totals. Him and Carson have gained a lot of trust, and Carson has been raving about it all year in camp.
Definitely. Last year he really kind of had his coming out party after kind of a slow rookie season. Had his bright moments in his rookie season, but last year he really kind of down the stretch became a go-to guy, difference maker for Carson Palmer, and I expect more of the same in year number 3.
Oh yeah, me too. And my second guy, another guy that's not getting talked about enough, Robert Woods up with Buffalo. Everyone's really after Sammy Watkins being the number 4 overall pick. That's a great pedigree. I like Watkins. He has a lot of talent, but Woods is the guy with the rapport. He was with EJ last year and really caught on with him. Woods has a great speed game. He's a deep threat anytime. And he actually had 0 drops last year. Best drop rate in the NFL. EJ will trust him early and often, especially while he develops that rapport with Watkins.
Absolutely. You look at games that E.J. Manuel started last year, and Robert Woods was a big part of E.J. Manuel's when he was successful, Robert Woods was getting the football, and he was getting the football pretty often. He had some couple of solid games last year. When Jeff Jewell and Thad Lewis were under center, Robert Woods wasn't putting up those numbers. So look for E.J. Manuel to feel comfortable in year 2 even more with Robert Woods.
And my number 3 receiver, the rookie that is not talked about, Kelvin Benjamin. And I don't know why he's not getting more love. Everyone's talking about Cooks, everyone's talking about Watkins, but Kelvin Benjamin got put in the perfect situation down in Charlotte. He is going in, definite edge threat, big guy, 6'5", nearly 240 pounds, huge hands, and absolute raw talent. I expect him to catch no less than 6 or 7 touchdowns, get at least 700 yards. He is definitely in the flex category, definitely someone you should look at early for your bench for those bye week replacements. His size is going to make him a red zone threat as good as it comes.
I keep even more love on Kelvin Benjamin. He's a guy that I feel like could put close to 1,000 yards, even 10 touchdowns. I feel like he's going to be Cam Newton's number 1 guy. I know Cam Newton last year felt pretty comfortable with Greg Olsen, the tight end. But I feel like with a big red zone threat with the flexible burst, plus hands, plus speed, plus just more talent in general, I feel like Kelvin Benjamin's going to be a more solid option there. I feel like he's going to get a lot of targets in that offense.
Oh yeah, and he's a good kid too. What's your number 4 running back?
I got Bishop Sankey from the Tennessee
That's
Titans.
a guy I like too.
You know, I feel like he's going to be that guy that, like you were saying, he is a jitterbug. He's going to be kind of one of those guys that he can catch the football, he can run the football. Sean Green isn't really going to be scaring defenses that much. He's never really averaged, I don't even think he's averaged 3.5 yards a click over his career, which in this NFL, it basically spells you're not a starter anymore. So look for Sean Green. Even heard Sean Green could be on the roster bubble if some of these other guys step up.
I definitely agree. I've been high on Bishop Sankey since pre-draft. He was excellent at the combine, obliterated in the shuffle drill, had one of the best times in the history of the combine. Very quick, very great change of direction speed. Reminds me a lot of guys like LaShawn McCoy coming out of college.
That's a good. My 5th guy is Andre Brown, Houston Texans. Some might say, well, why is he a sleeper? Well, because he's probably going to get to play this year. Arian Foster is getting at that point where he's got some miles on the tires. They put some mileage on him early in his career. He's not an old guy, but Arian Foster hasn't proven he can stay healthy over the course of a 16-game season in this NFL. Houston's going to want to pound the rock a lot this year with Fitzpatrick in at quarterback. Unsure about Andre Johnson. Unsure about a couple of things, but you know what? Houston has been known over the last 3 years to pound the rock. If Arian Foster goes down, look for Andre Brown to get the bulk of the carries and look for him to be successful like he was with the Giants.
Certainly. Arian Foster is a guy that I will definitely look at drafting late in the 1st round, but if I or anyone else gets him, you definitely got to look at that handcuff as soon as the bench picks start to come around. But to finish up my receivers, my number 4, also a guy from the Tennessee Titans, Kendall Wright. Kendall Wright, I didn't really like him coming out of college, but he's really proved me wrong in his first couple of years in the NFL. He's kind of gone under the radar, but he has been great for that team when everyone's been healthy. Tennessee has a good offensive line, good blocking. If they can keep Locker protected this year, look for him to go to Wright early and often. He's a nightmare matchup out of the slot, very quick, very fast. I definitely expect him to really improve his production this year.
And again, this is another guy like Michael Floyd, who's a 3rd-year receiver now. Coming into that 3rd year, offensive coordinators, coaches, players expect more out of you. I feel like Kendall Wright's a guy that can make that next step, take it to that next level, become a real threat. As a fantasy option, he's a guy that you're not just going to jump out at early and grab, but he's going to slide down to you. You're going to have to take him because of his potential there.
Oh yeah, for sure. My final guy, someone that a lot of people know a little bit better, Jarrett Boykin of the Green Bay Packers. He really started coming out last year when Finley was hurt, when Cobb was hurt. But look for him to continue that trend plus some. With James Jones going down to Oakland and Jermichael Finley not looking like he's going to end up coming back to the team, Jarrett Boykin will be the number 3 targets guy on that team. Rodgers looked like he trusted him a lot when he was in last year. I expect that trust to continue to grow, and everyone knows they're going to throw the ball plenty of times up in the NFC North with Aaron Rodgers and those other teams' weak secondaries.
I agree wholeheartedly. He was kind of that number 4, number 5 guy last year, when they had Finley, when they had Jones, Nelson, Randall Cobb healthy, which they couldn't keep everybody healthy last year. Boykin kind of had an opportunity to step up into a bigger role, and watch him step up into a bigger role this year with no real tight end threat this year on the roster for them. Look for Boykin to be that number 3 guy behind Cobb and behind Nelson this year. He's going to be a big guy here.
Oh yeah, to finish things up, we're going to each give you our sleeping quarterback. These quarterbacks aren't guys that you're going to want to take as your number 1 quarterback for those 2 QB leagues and those bye-week backup fillers. Look for these guys. Mine is Ryan Tannehill of the Miami Dolphins. Tannehill's been a guy that's got a lot of critics and a lot of love over the last couple of years, depending on who you talk to. But he's been in a stagnant offense in the past. Bill Lazor comes in, gives him a lot of upside, Mike Wallace, and then finally looking like they're going to start clicking. I expect Tannehill to really make a leap in his 3rd year and solidify himself as a franchise quarterback.
I agree, and you want to remind people that Bill Lazor comes from that Chip Kelly pedigree. He's the guy that kind of last year came out and he was a focal point in helping Nick Foles develop as a quarterback, and under Bill Lazor's tutelage, Foles, we saw what he turned into last year. He could turn into an elite quarterback at some point, and I feel like Tannehill, not while he's on maybe not on the same level, but with having run in Mike Sherman's ground and death offense, you know, bringing Bill Lazor in, and that is going to, Tannehill will grow as a quarterback.
Oh yeah, and just to add on what he mentioned again, because of 1 season with Bill Lazor, Foles is now a number 1 quarterback option. I said QB 10, QB 11 on those rankings. Just imagine what he can do with Tannehill, a guy that has had even more time in the league. But let's go on over. What are you thinking on the quarterback sleepers?
You know, I feel like Ryan Fitzpatrick out of Houston. I know I mentioned another guy from Houston a little bit ago, but Fitzpatrick, a guy that has people have overlooked for years. You know, the kid's smart. He went to Harvard. He definitely is a guy that, you know, understands the game, but he just has a propensity to throw gut-wrenching picks at really horrible times. He turns the ball over too much. If you can just learn to not turn the ball over, you will be good with Bill O'Brien, who's also known as a quarterback guru in this league. You know, he could really turn it around. Andre Johnson, you know, whatever happens with that, whatever happens with him and DeAndre Hopkins, you know, that whole thing, that could really turn into something.
Oh yeah, just one more note there. I know you Bills fans might want to cringe, but Fitzpatrick really had some solid years up there in Buffalo. You got to remember, he's always been one of those solid backup bye-week filling options. But we'll wrap things up on the fantasy end. But we're going to hit you up with one more segment that you're going to expect to see a lot from us in the future. That segment, the good, the bad, the raunchy. The good this week, I'll start you off from down out in the desert. My Arizona Cardinals, the good news is Antonio Cromartie. He's looking a lot fresher. If you've been keeping up with the news, he posted some videos mocking some of his critics of him running the 40. Don't know if it was quite as fast as he claims, but he looked great, looked in shape. His ailments from last year didn't appear to be affecting him. I think he's a guy that got overlooked in free agency and is still being overlooked. I expect him and Patrick Peterson to make up one of the best cornerback tandems in the league this year.
The bad comes back down to South Beach in Miami with the Dolphins. We talked about all the positives, but they have lost their center, Mike Pouncey. Pro Bowl center Mike Pouncey is down. Possibly going to go on the pup, missed up to half the season, maybe more, depends on what they're looking at. Dolphins are looking at maybe signing Samson Sattel. Last year played for the Colts, was the worst rated starting center in the league. Not a good time for that Miami offensive line that is going to have 5 new starters at the beginning of the year. Not good.
And finally, the raunchy. Sure, you can guess where this is going, but of course it is Johnny Football Manziel. The raunchy fact being that he has got to fix his attitude and got to get out of the news. I don't mind the kid. He had an excellent career at Texas A&M, but he cannot act that way in the NFL. Anytime you draw the ire of guys like Joe Montana, some of the greats, you really just need to tone down your attitude or really make a better effort to keep it under the covers, Manziel.
Terrence West even came out and said it's a distraction to the team, so really, you know, anytime you have players coming out like that, it causes problems in the locker room.
Oh yeah, you don't want that miscommunication, clicking on the wrong levels, especially with the draft class that came in with you. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. We want you to come back. We want you to tell your friends. We want to hear from you. Hit us up. Our email, footballfocusbenanddan@gmail.com. You can find that below. Our Twitter handles, mine is FFBD Dan.
Mine's FFBD Ben.
Make sure to tweet us, make sure to email us, questions, comments, tell us some of your sleepers, tell us some of your good, bads, and raunchies. We'll make sure to feature them on the show if we can. As I said, the more subscribers we get, the more views we get from you guys, the more likely we're going to be to give away things like these, and things like these, and things like these. Thanks for joining us once again. Y'all have a great evening.